What is going on, guys? Quamii here and welcome back to the channel. So I've brought you guys another Escape from Tarkov guide video, and this one is going to be part 2 of a little series I'm going to be doing. And the series itself is going to be about how to become a solo player. I have done part 1, which is the secret to destroying squads as a solo player. So if you haven't watched that video first, I suggest you go and watch it. But this is part 2, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the differences between a solo player and a squad player. So I'm going to be going over all the little factors and all the little things between the two different types of players and why it matters to you. So if you're sick of being a squad only player and you want to learn how to become a solo player, you don't really want to have to rely on your teammates anymore. Perhaps you've tried to do solo raids, but you keep failing and dying, and you don't know why you keep dying, then this is the guide for you. So if that sounds good, hit the like button for me on the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future content, as there will be more videos like this one in the future. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and tell me what you thought of the video, and feel free to drop by the live stream and say hello sometime. I stream 6 days a week at twitch.tv/Quamii. All other details will be in the description box below. Now we got all that stuff out of the way, guys. Let's get into it. So there's a few things you're going to need to know if you plan on playing solo in Escape from Tarkov, and playing solo in general in this game is quite difficult. There's been a lot of debate around whether it's easier or harder to play solo or in squads. People have many different opinions about it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I'm going to give you some of my own personal pointers and advice on what you need to do so you can be on your way to becoming a great solo player. Let's start off with my first piece of advice is to, when you're starting out playing solo, bring in gear that you're comfortable losing. It's like they say when you're starting to learn to swim for the first time. Don't just jump into the deep end of the pool. Start off in the shallow end and work your way up. So bring in the gear that you're comfortable with losing, and then later on when you're feeling more confident, start bringing in the more expensive gear if you see fit. It will help with your confidence, you won't be playing scared, and it will help you make good decisions because you're not in fear for losing your gear. A lot of people have told me previously that they are too used to playing in squads and that they find it very difficult to survive on their own, and they don't understand why. They don't know what they're doing wrong, and some people aren't even aware that they need to change. People think that to become a solo player, you have to always be very stealthy and you have to play in specific ways just to do it. Such as, you got to bring in low-end gear, and when you kill a player, you have to ditch your insured gear and take their gear, so therefore you don't lose as much as you normally would. Some people think you have to rat attack, quote unquote, all the time, or you must budget run, otherwise it's too difficult to play solo Tarkov. I'm telling you right now, that's BS, man. I barely budget run, okay? I probably budget run the start of the wipe, because I ain't got nothing. Same as you. You ain't got nothing either. So that's probably the only time you'll see me with no gear. Everything else, every other time, I'm always geared, okay? I'm at the point now where I can pretty much run whatever I want as a solo, but obviously I wasn't like this at first. It took me a long time to get my bearings, but once I did, I never looked back. So here's where the squad player comes into play. You notice with a lot of squad players, they can run expensive gear when they're playing in a squad, but they always go super budget-like whenever they play in solo. This tells me one thing, that they have gear fear. Because if they didn't have gear fear, they would run the high-end gear when they're in solos and not just when they're playing in a squad. But most people don't, which is the truth. But part of the reason for them having gear fear of playing solo, in my experience, is one reason. They keep dying way more when they're solo than they do in a squad. And usually, when they're in a squad, they are way more confident with their plays, they are aggressive, they know if they die, it's no big deal because their buddy will secure the kill and then ditch their gear and then they'll get it back in insurance. But when they play solo, it's like night and day. They are playing very, very timid, very scared, unsure of what the play is, and all that sort of stuff. I know this because I actually have a friend who's just like this. He's very good in a squad, and to have as a teammate, he's probably one of the best teammates I've ever had. He's got really good callouts, he's got good aim, he backs you up when you decide to make a play, all that sort of stuff. But as soon as I watch him play as a solo, he's like a completely different person, and he always runs very low budgety type of gear, and he plays very, very timid. So if you are feeling similar to this, where you feel very confident and aggressive when you're playing in a squad, but when you're playing solo, you're playing a completely different game, then you need to play solos because you're not going to improve much more if you keep just playing in squads. So the second piece of advice I'm going to give you is you need to learn when to be aggressive and when to be defensive, okay? You can't just all in on the one play style. And let me explain why. I'm sure a lot of you have seen other content creators and Twitch broadcasters, and you've watched how they play, and they're all out aggressive, and you're thinking to yourself, boy oh boy, I want to be able to do the exact same thing. But the thing is, they have learned from all their past mistakes beforehand. Chances are you have not. So the reason why they can play so fast paced is because every time they've made a mistake, they've learned from it, and they've added it onto their gameplay, so they know what to do next time when they get into that situation. So I do this a lot myself. When I tend to be aggressive and it doesn't work out for me, I figure out why it didn't work out for me, and then I make an adjustment to my gameplay. Like, for example, if I came up around a corner and there happened to be a guy crouching there and then he kills me because of it, that means next time what I should do is I should probably shoulder peek around that corner and then full sprint up. So then I can clear the corner properly, I can check it, yeah? But chances are you haven't learned these things yet. It's very important to know the difference of when to be aggressive and when to be defensive and when to be patient and to take your time. You'll learn this from experience and practice, but I mostly learned it also from trial and error. It's got me to the point where I am playing pretty damn good Tarkov from here on in because I've learned from my mistakes, and you can too, and that's the beauty of it. That's what's great. You can too. So the best piece of advice I can tell you for trying to learn to when to be aggressive and when to be more defensive is to always think about what you're doing. Think about the situation that you're currently in, regards to the factors of the present fight that you're in, okay? And think about what they're doing, and then think about where each of them are, and then think about what you need to do to be able to get the kill on them, okay? And if you want to learn to be aggressive, this really comes down to movement and your timing. And I'm actually going to talk about that in another video. I will actually be doing a video about movement and how important movement is, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to leave that right there, and let's continue on with the other points, okay? Alright, so this is reason number 3, and this is a pretty big one, in all honesty. This one is pretty important, and this happens to, I'm going to say, the majority of the players who play in a squad, okay? So, reason number 3 is they tend to get complacent and they make a lot of mistakes, okay? And you're probably like, what do you mean by that? Well, what that means is that when you're playing in a squad, you're generally feeling very confident, you're very aggressive most of the time, you're generally a bit more geared than what you normally would be, compared to when you play solo. And because you have the comfort of other players and you're all rolling together, like with a big squad, for example, you tend to get complacent and you make mistakes. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. And those mistakes, when you play in a squad, those mistakes carry on to when you're playing solo. The difference is between doing it as a squad and when you do those mistakes as a solo is that when you do it in a squad, you're probably going to be fine because you have teammates who back you up, who can cover for you. Even if you die, your teammates just ditch your gear. Like, it's no big deal. It's no problem, man, because most of the time you guys insure your gear. So it's, you know, it's not much of a weight off your shoulders. You know what I mean? But as a solo player, you can't afford to make mistakes as a solo player, and that's the big thing. That's something you're gonna have to get used to. You can't afford to get complacent like those guys do when they play in a squad. You can't afford the mistakes. You can't make a single mistake. You make a single mistake, that's the end of the raid for you. So you need to learn to play mistake-free, is what I'm going to call it. No mistakes in a squad when you play with your buddies. And you need to take those skills and carry it on to when you're playing solos, because you can't afford to make a mistake. You make one mistake, that's it. That's the end of you. There you go. Bye-bye. All your gear's gone. And if you think by insuring your gear is going to help you, it really isn't, because if you're geared like me, and this is why I don't insure my gear anymore, okay? I feel like it's a waste of money. And it's a waste of money because when people see how geared I am all the time, when they kill me, man, they're taking everything. Okay, let me tell you, if people could take my underwear in the game, they would, okay? And that's just facts. They see how geared I am, they're taking everything. They take my socks, my shoes, everything, you know what I'm saying? So, there's no point in insuring my gear. I don't bother. Okay, so moving on to number 4. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that when people play solo and they're normally a squad player, they are afraid to make moves. So this is kind of comes under lack of confidence and all that sort of stuff, but it's very, very similar. So generally speaking, when people play in a big squad, they aren't afraid to make moves. And they are very comfortable and confident to be able to just go and be aggressive and try and push the other players and force them to make a mistake and for them to get the kill and all that sort of stuff, right? But when they're playing solo, they don't want to play that way. You need to learn how to play the same way when you're in a squad compared to when you're playing solo, okay? So there's a few things that I do personally about this. So it's natural that a lot of the time, a situation kind of just erupts out of nowhere, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded. Like, for example, if you ever went to dorms on customs and you're trying to get to March room, you happen to be the first one there, you open the door, give it like 10 seconds later, you're surrounded, you're swarmed, you're like, oh crap, now what do I do? So in those types of situations, it's pretty common to kind of just settle in for a second and just try and listen and try and gauge how many people there are, whereabouts their locations, and when you think someone is, I'm not going to necessarily say isolated, but if you think you can get a kill on someone because maybe they're a little bit closer to you or something like that, then go ahead and start off with that. So if you're unsure what the play is and what your decisions should be, try and just hold your position momentarily. You're not camping, you're just taking a momentary break to think about the situation in its entirety and what's going on. I actually learned this from watching Cuddy. He was one of the top players in the game many moons ago, and I learnt this from him. So what he'd do is when he's unsure of the situation, he would kind of just crouch and just listen in and think about where everyone is, and then from gaining the information that he has, he thinks about what he should do. Okay, so that's what I'm going to tell you in these types of spots where you are afraid to make moves. Just stop momentarily if you're unsure what you should do, and just think about everything that's happened, where all the players are, what did you hear, when did you hear it, and try and kill the guy who's closest to you if you're really struggling to think about what you should do. Okay, so just gather information, think about it, and then the guy who's closest to you, if you think you can get the kill on him, go for it, man, and then it'll just steamroll from there. Because sometimes you can run into one guy, you kill him, you see the guy next to him, and then then you spray him down, you kill him, and then next thing you know, you kill a third player, and then all of a sudden it's a team wipe, and you did it in seconds. Sometimes it just rolls off that way, and these things can happen in this game. The ideal situation here is to get the jump on them and they don't know where you are, but you know where they are. So you can immediately kill one and then spray transfer to the second player and try and kill them both before they can even react. That's the ideal situation. If you can get that, then you're sweet. But a lot of the time that doesn't happen, and sometimes you just have to be satisfied with just getting the one kill and making a play from that. So don't be afraid to try and make a play and make something happen. And even if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal. Just when you attempt it and it doesn't work out, try and figure out why it didn't work out, so then you can make an alteration to the next time in that similar situation to what you should do compared to the last situation where it didn't work. Just a small adjustment here and there, and then you'll be able to figure it out. So those were the 4 main points I wanted to talk about in this video. So the final thing before we get to the outro is I just want to talk about a quick couple of things for the last part, okay? So there are multiple factors that come into play. A lot of the time it comes down to experience, a lot of it comes down to confidence, just being able to make small adjustments here and there to your gameplay, because you can't afford to make mistakes is more or less the reason. Because with squad players, they generally don't make many adjustments because they don't need to make adjustments, because they rely on the sheer force of numbers to kind of overpower and take over a map and then kill the players that way. So a lot of the time, just for example, one of them will make a call out, oh, there's a player over here, I'm going to go push the left. So then naturally you would think, oh, okay, I'll go from the right. You're naturally doing a pincer attack. That guy's pretty much screwed, that player. Like, there's not much he can do about it. And that's what I mean. Like, it's really, really easy when you're playing with a squad of teammates. So they don't have to think about making small adjustments here and there to their gameplay in order to change things much. And because they're used to playing that particular way in that particular style, when they go into solos, they're dying way too much, and then they don't understand why. But some of the things that I do know is that you will probably die more often as a solo player compared to when you're playing in a squad. Everyone is your enemy when you're playing solos. This is true, so you have to pretty much kill and fight everything that comes into your path. While unless you're with your squad, you can kind of pick and choose your fights and be smart about it, because there's multiple players looking after each other, and they have more of a spectrum of an area that they can cover compared to just one guy. And there is a huge difference in the spectrum of what you can cover as a solo player in comparison to what a team of players can cover. But the main thing, if I had to pick one, is to keep learning from your mistakes and keep trying to make improvements. Keep practicing and keep improving, and then you'll be on your way, okay? Alright guys, that's pretty much it. That's what I've got for you today. Hopefully that helps you gain a better understanding of the differences between the two types of players, and then how you can use that information to your own advantage, and you can take that on board to your own gameplay. And hopefully you learned a few things. Perhaps you learned some things that you didn't know previously. And I will be elaborating and talking more about solo stuff, because I will be doing more solo guides for this little series that I'm doing on YouTube. So there will be more things that I will be talking about for you players who really want to improve their PvP skills and become a great solo player. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you for everyone who stuck around to the end. I really do hope you learned something, and it was... hope you found it informative and beneficial in some way. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to like the video and give it a thumbs up for me. Drop a comment down below if you wanted to share some of your thoughts with me and tell me what you thought of the video. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future content, as there will be more videos in the future. Subscribing does help me out quite a bit, guys, so thank you all so far for the support. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Feel free to drop by the live stream and say hello sometime. I'm more than happy to answer your Tarkov related questions there. I stream 6 days a week at twitch.tv/Quamii. All other details will be in the description box below. Thanks for hanging until the end. I hope you learned something. Remember to keep practicing, keep improving, stay Quam, and hopefully I'll see you on the live stream.